Atlanta's not really known for its architecture, at least not in the way a city like New York or Paris is. But we do have a few notable buildings. First one that comes to mind, of course, is the Fox Theater, but we also have some sort of semi-iconic skyscrapers as well. Among them, the Westin Peachtree Plaza and 191 Peachtree, which are behind me. Now, I've had an idea in mind about trying to capture a picture of the moon that somehow incorporates one or both of these buildings. I've been planning it out using Google Earth and Stellarium to see where the moon's going to be. I've tried looking at it from different perspectives at different times of day, and I think I'm ready to make an attempt at this shot. This is Centennial Olympic Park in downtown Atlanta, and this is where I'm planning to take some pictures from to try and get the moon behind 191 Peachtree and the Westin Peachtree Plaza right there behind me. I think this is going to be a pretty good vantage point. I can set up and get into the park early. Looks like the moon is going to be setting somewhere around 6 to 7 a.m. So the skies will still be dark. I'll be able to get in here early, get set up, and hopefully get some good shots that incorporate the moon and some kind of foreground element, which hopefully will be Atlanta's skyscrapers. One thing I want to point out, which is kind of important when you're trying to take a shot like this of the moon and incorporating some kind of foreground element, one of the things that makes those shots very dramatic is to try and increase the apparent size of the moon. You want it to look big and impressive, and one of the best ways to do that is with a long focal length. Get yourself a long telephoto lens or a telephoto zoom lens and get far away from your subject so that you can compress your foreground subject and the moon together. Now, in my case, I'm at Centennial Park and I'm trying to shoot 191 Peachtree Street. Now, if you're not familiar with the Atlanta area, that's several blocks away. In fact, I measured it off with Google Maps and it's exactly 1/3 of a mile from this edge of Centennial Park to 191 Peachtree. Now, I haven't decided for sure which lens I'm going to use, but I'm between the Tamron 70 to 200 and my Sigma 150 to 600 millimeter. I can't really bring both of them. I'm trying to do this in the morning before I get into work, so I need to minimize my kit, and those are two big lenses, so I need to pick one that I can bring with me. I'm leaning more towards the 150 to 600 just because it gives me a little more breathing room, a little more space to play around with the composition, and it covers the upper end of the 70 to 200 anyway. So I think I'm going to go with the 150 to 600, but what I'll have to do is just get it out here, set it up, and see what kind of compression I get, what kind of compositions I can get, and see if I can find something that works. I think one of the signs that you're maturing in your photography, especially as an amateur or a hobbyist, is the implementation of planning for your shots. Seeing the picture in your head before you see it through the viewfinder and capture it on your sensor. And that requires planning, it requires forethought, it requires some inspiration. For me, it was walking from the MARTA station to the building that I work in and seeing 191 Peachtree rising above the city and kind of seeing what that looked like in the early morning hours with the lights on top of the building. That was the original inspiration for this photo. Now, I'm sure that the picture that I end up with is going to be very different from what I first thought of in my head. But the point is, I was inspired by something and it started a planning process. And that's what I'm trying to take you through. That's what this visit to Centennial Park is about today, is trying to scout out a location, look at the angles and try and figure out where I could set up for my best chances of capturing a good picture. It's visualizing different versions of the picture in my head, thinking about what it might come out to. Do I want the moon beside the building? Do I want it directly above the building? Do I want it partially obscured by the building? Now, I might not actually be able to achieve any of these things, but the planning process is important because it gets me thinking about what kind of photograph I want to take. And that to me is what signals maturity in photography, is that you're no longer walking around with your camera and happening upon things and just taking pictures by chance. You're thinking about what you want to photograph, and you're creating an image rather than just capturing one. My results might not be that great, but that's not the point. The point is the process, and it's a creative process for me, and I really enjoy going through it, and hopefully you guys enjoy sharing in the process too. So I started out over at Centennial Park, but now I've found what I think is a better shot. I've moved over in front of the tabernacle, and I'm getting some shots with the moon actually lined up directly above 191 Peachtree. It's starting to drift a little bit now, so I'm having to move a little bit, but I have gotten some shots with it centered perfectly above 191. I do think I'm going to composite these though, just for the sake of the exposures, just to make sure that I can match up the exposures of the building and the exposure of the moon.
Nearly gave you a heart attack. Thought I told you to watch your back. Never know what to expect down here. That's the only solid fact. Guess I'd rather be on vacation. Guess I haven't got the education. I don't really have an explanation. So I found a new game to play. Thought I told you to stay away, but I see you're here anyway. So yeah, guess you're welcome to overstay. Just don't build up your expectations. It's not a good time to test my patience. And don't get in these situations.